I'm Jeremy Till, and this is Amplify. All right, guys, we're sitting here in Austin, Texas. We're with Tom Smith. It gets more dynamic than that. I was thinking we might be in the Matrix. Agent Smith is here, guys. But anyways, this is a great story, to tell you the truth, coming on. I was at Starbucks a couple weeks back, or maybe a week ago, and I was just getting my thing, getting ready for the day, and there was no seats available here on 6th and Lamar. And so I was kind of walking through, and I just said, hey, you mind if I say here to Tom? And he was like, for sure, man, take a seat. And I don't know, a few things were going on, and I maybe just started chatting with him, and he started sharing his story about, his life and what he's up to, and, he just wouldn't stop talking. I think it was the espresso. Nah, I'm totally playing. Totally playing. He was probably like, dude, I got to work. But I started asking him questions. I started sharing him about the podcast. And his story is what I think is really a big piece of what's going on in America today on millennials and what they're looking to do in their careers and what they're looking to do to be mobile, to have a lifestyle type of business, especially young people that want to have life on their terms, and what is coined in some communities as a lifestyle business. And so Tom's here with us. Tom, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was funny. At the Starbucks, like I had just tried the day before, like this new thing that I was trying to meet one person a day, and you sat down and it just kind of worked. But it was just like, just happened.
Yeah, no doubt. That's good, man. And I think that's kind of how life happens. What was it? I think was it Uber that got started by two guys? They were on Twitter. I think they were tweeting back and forth, and one guy had an idea, another guy responded, and they got together, and that's how Uber got
I didn't
created.
know that.
Yeah,
it's
a great story. You can look into it and kind of see how they connected through Twitter to found Uber. So you never know what's possible, But cool. So really what we want to do today is we've had different types of guests on, and I think with your age, you're 26, is that correct?
Yep, 26.
Yeah, 26, so you're right on that spectrum of young millennials coming into the workspace, and I just like to get your story out there, because what we're kind of thinking is we'll do a kind of check-in over the course of the next 365 days as you go into your journey and hear about the ups and downs, but we want to kind of get into it. So where we want to start is kind of give us a picture of when you entered into the workforce, what that looked like, getting your first job. Maybe have you had one or two jobs?
Just one,
One job, and then what made you say, hey, I want to do something different? And I know that you listen to Tim Ferriss podcast, some other people that are influences on you, kind of where you got some different perspectives and things like that. So share with us about your job.
Yeah, sure. So I graduated as a chemical engineer from the University of Illinois, which is about middle of the state, Illinois, about two and a half hours south of Chicago. But I was a pretty classic, quiet engineer, not really that outgoing or social at the front end of it. And I ended up getting a job with in a consulting firm. And because I was quiet, I didn't have that many internships at the beginning, but Sage kind of broke me out of my shell. But Sage is the company. Sage Environmental is the consulting firm. And I went to work for them, and that was a very, very good start to my career. But basically what I did was I started as an engineer, and I worked in the normal engineering capacity. And the basic of it is they provide environmental consulting support to like refineries and chemical plants, a lot of them in Houston. And from there, I got some different opportunities, and I've always been a big proponent. You were talking about kind of like the leadership development people. Tim Ferriss is one of them. I also I like Dave Ramsey a lot. Michael Hyatt's another one. But I've always kind of delved into that on the side. It's just something that's always psychology, behavioral psychology. I know Tim Ferriss talks a ton about behavioral psychology, and that has been a huge interest to me. So I kind of naturally gravitated towards that in my job, and I ended up getting some opportunity to step out of an engineering capacity and support the intern program at the time. And that was the first step, I ended up going into a position where, about 2 years into my career in 2013, I got asked to come down here to work in Austin right next to the CEO and the owner and the founder that ran the business for like 18 years. It was 1998, so about 18 years. And
on that, with
Yeah.
Sage, what type of company? How big is this company?
Sage is, let me think about that. The family of companies is probably 250 people. Sage itself is probably 150, I think. So yeah, 150. And I was identified one way or another as a top performer in engineering capacity. I got pulled down here to work with the CEO, which was just crazy. When he called me, I was just like, he's like, "Do you want to move to Austin?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll come down to Austin." So I moved to Austin, and he had the concept he pitched was a executive leadership development team, ELDT is what he called it. And it was basically work with him on the business and all the different areas of business, HR, legal, finance, just learn by doing, right? He's definitely a visionary and idea guy, and he needs people around him that know how to execute very well, and that was me. And I was the first member of that team, and we've gone on since to hire another 3 people in that ELDT type role, but it's basically executive training program is kind of what it was. And I was in that for 2.5 years, and recently, April 30th is when I left that job and I went to start my own business. But, I think if I were to look back, I would have had no idea about the path that I've taken and that it would have ended me up where I am today. But that executive leadership development team was a very, very good step in that I had to learn a lot about business because I have an engineering background. And, it was just that's kind of how I got to where I am today through that.
So, but there's some critical things that happen. That's what we like to do with the podcast is get in there and find out really what shifted and happened with decisions. It sounds like you had a great job.
Yeah.
And why would you want to leave that job and pursue something else? And what happened in the last 3 to 6 months for you to start to look at other opportunities?
Yeah. So actually, the shift maybe started to happen, let me think about this, maybe 1.5 years ago. So beginning of 2015, something like that. And I've always been one that like really is very passionate about helping people and just doing what's right. And I don't care so much about the money side of it. I've not really ever been on that spectrum. And I made good money, but I never asked for a raise. I never, ever asked for a raise at my job. I was always just given raises, which is an issue I'm now working through, right? Having to be an entrepreneur, you can't just not ask for money because that won't work. But anyways, all that aside, the shift started to occur in 2015 when I would see kind of what I was doing, and I would always think like, well, maybe I can do more. Maybe I can help people more. And I'm really into like this social entrepreneurship concept. And I know I can't do that right now, or at least I'm trying to figure out how to do that right now. But really 2015 is when I started to see, and what that ELDT role is, maybe this is what the big point is too. It really made me believe in myself, is I was put in a position right next to the owner, super competent guy, extremely, mind's always moving 1,000,000 miles a minute. Lots of people can't keep up with them, and I was able to do that. I was able to keep up with them. So I think that was a key point that I believed in myself. I just went after it, and I was just like, I can do this.
Did you always believe in yourself, or when you got around him, it elevated your confidence in yourself?
It definitely, when I was around him, he definitely elevated my confidence. There was times when he was a very, very strong leader, so he is a very strong leader. So definitely times of elevated confidence and then times of reduced confidence as well. But overall, definitely elevated the confidence. And to answer your question, no, I was kind of quiet. So I definitely did not have this. I guess I kind of always at my core believed that I could do whatever I wanted, but I always had trouble turning that into action, Like I'm a theoretical guy. So
Yes.
engineers are theoretical. So taking the theory and turning it into action is very difficult. But that started to shift my mentality, and then I just started to think about what could I do, And that's when I started writing, I think. We were talking about, I have a very basic blog online that's a free blog, and I just started writing.
And what's the blog? Just so the audience knows.
Empower Yourself blog is kind of what I called it, but it never really, I'm not big on naming things. I just kind of do things, and then they just end up creating a brand of themselves. But it's just thomasdsmith.wordpress.com. But anyways, that's when I started writing, and that was another big step for me because I started to actually show who I was and what I believed to the world. I was always a bit reserved, but going out online and posting my beliefs, posting my thoughts, and posting what I was about was a step in that direction of saying, look, I'm not going to worry about how this is going to be received. I'm just going to be me, and what happens is what happens, right? That's branding. You're a magnet. You attract people, and you repel people. But when when you're yourself, that's when that happens. If I were to hide and be in a shell, I wouldn't attract or repel hardly anyone, because I wouldn't be anyone.
Yeah.
But taking off that and becoming vulnerable. So I think that was the first step. And then beyond that, I just started to think, like, what could I do? And I still don't really know the answer, but I've got some ideas that I'm working on right now. But I went part-time in November to get to the next phase. So I was kind of a little burnout, a little frustrated with how certain things were going. I didn't really, I wasn't really having as much fun as I used to at the job. So I was like, okay, I went to my boss. I said, hey, I really want to explore some other areas. And, it may be writing, it may be some of these freelance consulting jobs working. And he was open to it at that point. He said, okay, that sounds good. Just do your thing. We'll drop your salary to be equivalent, to whatever time you work, and go do it. And he was very supportive. And that went on about 4 months. So this was November 2015. And then in March, they came back to me and said, hey, we really need you. We really need you. We need you now, And I said, okay. And I talked to them about kind of what their perspective was, and I came back full-time for a month. And it was during that month that I kind of realized that there wasn't going to be a half time. It wasn't going to be that I could be half pregnant or whatever you want to call it. It wasn't going to happen. They wanted me all or nothing. And at that point I realized I just need to close it out. I need to close it out. And that was a hard thing for me from a growth standpoint, because when all you have is a salary your whole career, because that's what I had. And when I started working, I had a salary. And I'm a very financially disciplined individual, I like to have control, another thing I'm working on. But when you have a salary, it's consistent, right? I'm going to receive X amount of dollars a month. I know I spend about Y amount of dollars. Therefore, I'm going to save about this much. Therefore, if I do that for 20 years, I'm going to have this much in the bank when I'm this age. And therefore, I'm going to be able to make the interest off of this so that I don't have to work at the age of 42 or whatever, right? I had that calculation done. Well, salary going away completely trashes that idea, right? It doesn't trash it, but it changes the game big time. So that was a huge step. And I actually just received my last paycheck today. Anyways, April 30th was the last day, and I'm now launched into this new, but that's kind of how my thought process evolved,
So one thing you touched on was social entrepreneurship. What is that in your mind defined as?
So I heard one of my friends told me at one point that he thinks a lot of the jobs that really, really are good, in terms of whether it's helping homeless people or volunteering at the VA hospital or things of that nature that help people that can't really help themselves, those jobs aren't typically compensated, right? Well, why is that? I mean, I can think of some obvious reasons, right? Those people don't have the ability to pay for themselves, and therefore nobody else. Some people are willing to invest in these nonprofits that actually do that, and you have to go out and get that money, right? But a lot of those jobs aren't paid for, and I see that as the social entrepreneurship side. There's you ever heard of Community First?
I think I have. It
Out in
rings
East
a bell,
Austin?
but
That is, if we went to communityfirst.com, or I think it's mlf.org, Mobile Loaves and Fishes is the one that
Yes.
that kind of gave birth to Community First. But Community First is social entrepreneurship in my mind. And I don't know exactly, what they do is they basically have a mobile home park, and they have micro homes also. So they got these trailers and then micro homes, and they have a certain percentage of the population that's like a missionary population. So you or I could go live there, and basically our job would be is they take homeless people that don't have the ability to pay normal rent, and they put them in these micro homes, and $200 to $300 a month, I think it's pretty low. They still pay something, so it's not free ride, but they go in these, and then the missionaries will help be the mentors, if you will, of that place. Because you can imagine if you've got 200 people, 25 are these missionary kind of people that are there to help. 175 are people that have had more trouble in their lives. There's going to be problems, right? And the missionary's job is to help work through those issues, right? And it's actually cool. The reason I call it entrepreneurship is they're actually creating jobs. Mm-hmm. So they're creating jobs in the sense of they have a garden, they have goats, they have chickens, they have Alamo Drafthouse donated a movie screen, and you and I could go out there and watch a movie, pay $8 to watch a movie. They bring us popcorn. We pay $3 for the popcorn, $2 for a pop, whatever, right? That's dollars are being created. That's revenue for that. And the people that are working the movie theater and that are working the popcorn and working the pop, those are the people that live there, the homeless people. So they're creating jobs for them.
Right.
So that's social entrepreneurship, and that is super cool in my mind, right? It's like, how do you think of that? You know? I mean, now that we hear it, it's like, wow, that makes sense. But actually thinking of that and then getting people to buy into that and then making it happen is awesome. And I don't, and that's just one example of like.
Okay. Well, it's good because I kind of want to transition into, you know, you quit. Mm-hmm. You showed me that you plan to leave the country.
Yep.
And you've been able to pick up some consulting clients to allow you to do this. Mm-hmm. So kind of share with us what your plans are right now.
Sure. So I have two tracks I'm running down right now. One is the business track, the virtual consulting. So there's this sector, remote companies, virtual companies, you may have heard of them, but essentially it's just you could have 10 employees. The 10 employees are all in different cities, and they work via web apps such as Trello, Slack. I'm trying to think of the other ones offhand, but Trello and Slack are two big ones. Trello is a project management, task management system, and Slack is kind of like communication tool, communication platform, Google Hangouts, Google Drive, stuff like that. And it's a fairly big sector, and that's the one I'm targeting. So I have one company that is actually the guy that runs it is the guy that hired me originally, so that's how I know him so well, and we have a very good relationship. So he's my biggest client right now, but I have a market list that's being built that is of just virtual companies, right? And I'm just going to market to virtual companies. And they don't care whether you're in, the thing they most care about, there's a limit of like how many time zones you can be apart. That's like the main thing. But other than that, that's kind of my one path is what my talent really is if you are a visionary, entrepreneurial, got lots of ideas, don't have a hard time getting the ideas done, right? Actual implementation of the ideas, that's what I'm good at. So I did a lot of operations and a lot of marketing work at Sage, and finding those people and then saying, hey, this is what I do, you know, and getting and even if it's a part-time gig, right? If I work half-time for them and half-time for somebody else, that's kind of the idea, is to support virtual companies in an execution capacity. That's the one side of it. The other side of it is I'm building this group, and it has yet to have a name, but I have a pilot group actually started, and it's a leadership development group of my own. So I'm getting 8 to 10 of super smart, super talented, super driven, ambitious, younger people for the most part, combined with some older guys, some mentor level people, you know, 30s, 40s, done pretty well.
So old, man. That's old. Yeah.
Sorry.
Some older
How
guys.
old are you?
35.
I'm sorry.
34. I turned 35.
We'll say old is 45 or
30,
more.
Yeah. No, 35 in October, so
I
still
know.
34.
But anyways, yes, sorry about that. I just talk sometimes.
No, I can see that. It's good.
But yeah, getting this group together, and I think about it almost like an incubator before incubators. So an incubator is taking a business idea and taking that business idea and scaling it and turning it into an actual business, right? Mm-hmm. Business idea is not a business. Well, there's a lot of young people that have lots of ideas in their head, but they don't know what they want to do. And they're smart, but they don't know how to make anything happen. Well, not anything, but they have a hard time actually taking that and actually saying, this is a business idea. So what do I do with it now? How do I make a career out of it? How do I have an impact? You know, and I think for me, what has allowed me to get to this point is mentorship from other people, as well as professional development. Like you talk about all these shows. I listen to a ton of shows. I actually found a way to listen to shows and get paid. It's pretty cool. I get paid to listen to like Michael Hyatt and Tim Ferriss, and I have to summarize content, right, and send it to them, but it takes like hardly any time. Anyways, the leadership group is to take all these really smart people, get them all together, and get them on a leadership development track together. And my vision is again, this thing could turn into a million different ideas just because it's so fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
If you affect someone early in their career, if you affect their trajectory, if their trajectory is like this and you get them to change like just that much, the impact over a long period of time is humongous because they have such a long runway, right? So that's my second idea. And it's the way I'm going to do that one is I'm going to just build a brand for it. So we're doing a pilot group right now, and we're going to 3 months just work through all the kinks, get 8 to 10 people together, 8 to 10 of the best, and just do it, but then figure out what can be done better. And then when we do that, 3 months down the line, which will be about the time I'm hitting Spain, will be when the brand is created, the website's ready to go, and we're putting posts every day and just pushing out content.
That's exciting, man. That sounds like a very powerful opportunity. I think a platform to impact people's lives for sure. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of people hungry, but they need direction. And I think that's the big deal is that we got a lot of motivators out there yelling at people through their mics or their Instagrams. And it's really coming down to actually application and getting the job done and how you get into the trenches and do the work. You leave town June 1st. Are you headed up to see the in-laws or what did you say?
So, yeah, we're going to be traveling for a few years, right? So family's super important to us. And we're going to spend a month in Boston. So her family's all in Boston. Big Italian family.
Nice.
Antonuccio.
Yeah.
So super Italian.
Yeah.
But then to Chicago. So my family's in Chicago. We're going to be in Chicago for about a month. And then we're going to get married, top it all off, getting married in New Hampshire in late August. And then we're going to get on a plane and go and travel for a few years and then probably come back after a few years. It's not a permanent, maybe it will be a permanent thing, but yeah, that's the plan.
Right. And so so a few things I kind of connect the dots here. So you have a couple current clients that you're consulting for and doing work for. And then how will you, for 2 years that you're traveling and consulting and all this stuff, how will you acquire new clients?
So that's what I'm building right now. And I think it's really like there's a couple of concepts I learned from Sage. I'm going to modify it a little bit. It's like they called it a drip campaign. Have you ever heard of a drip campaign? Yeah. So some type of drip campaign newsletter specifically for remote companies, right? And that's what I've got that market list going. I got about 250 names on it or something right now. And that's really the idea, right? And it's about getting in front of them, but also providing valuable information on working remotely. And I want it to be funny too, funny or cool or something, right? It's got to be something that can't just be like, you are a remote company, your pains are XYZ, therefore hire me, right? It's not compelling. It's got to be, and that's why I'm really trying to get in the social media game by like taking cool pictures, right? And I stole this idea from the guy that runs one of the companies that I'm working for, is whenever, because they're a virtual company, whenever he's in a cool place, he'll have his laptop up and he'll like kick his feet up and like take a picture and be like, remote office, this is the remote office today, and then post it. Yeah. So like stuff like that just catches people's attention. I think that's kind of so it's valuable content, but it's also a real brand, right? A brand that catches people's eyes and not just another company. So that's kind of the process. But that's why I'm trying to do a lot of the legwork now.
Yeah.
Is building that so that.
So what social media platforms are you primarily focusing on?
I think I'm going to go Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm not that good at Twitter. I think I need to do Twitter, but Facebook and LinkedIn are the two probably that I'll start with because I know those are the best.
Yeah. And then
emails, of course, to supplement.
Yeah. Nice.
And the good old phone call.
Well, cool. Well, how do you feel? Are you nervous?
I am a little nervous, man. Yeah, I need to be more vulnerable, so I'm not going to sit here and say that everything's good. I mean, I think that certainly you know this, that doing this is a complete mindset change, and it requires a lot of faith in what you're doing. And there's times that probably every week that I look at myself and I say, you crazy, right? Like, if you step out of that for a second, and then there's the potential that you look at yourself and you say, you're making your life so much harder, right? But it's like, I heard Dave Ramsey one time in one of his shows say, like, the reason you go and do this sometimes is not because it's always fun, but because you look back at where you were before and you're like, I'd rather do that, right? So it's and there is those hard times, but I think the testing of your faith is extremely difficult because it's completely unproven. You know, I do have some clients right now, and I've of course done my financial calculations like I always do, and I'm good, but like you do ask yourself those questions and say, is this going to work? Am I crazy, right? Because it's completely untested. It's not like there's a market for that. There is a market, but it's super small and it's very untested. But you know what? I know that I'm very good at what I do. And I know that when I get an opportunity, because that's really what it's about. I've always been, my past 4 years of Tom Smith's marketing strategy has been somebody gives me an opportunity and I knock the crap out of it. And then they're like, holy cow, that was awesome. I never talked myself up. I just kind of did it. I just did a good job. And then I never talked about it. And my boss in the last 6 months of my time at Sage, one of the pieces of advice he gave me that is good is he said, Tom, you operate in the shadows sometimes. He's like, you go in and you do these awesome things and you don't tell anyone about it except for like me or whoever you deliver the work product to. He's like, you have to be communicating these things. You know, he's right. And that's what I'm trying to get better at now is like, and I'm not a good salesperson. I'm a better doer and I'm a better at branding and recruiting. Because with branding and recruiting, you just talk about vision and you talk about where you're headed and you talk about the ideas. I'm good at that. But I'm not good at telling you, hire me because of blah, 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 blah.
Well, man, this has been a great interview. I'm really looking forward to see what happens over the course of the next few years. And our ideal plan is for us to jump back on Skype or on Google Hangouts and do a couple touch bases with you and see how things are going. And we're also interested in your leadership platform. If we could be any service to you for cool. Being old people experts on there and helping.
Yeah, you're 35, so you're just on the line of being old.
Yeah, right.
It's like 35. When you hit 30, are you 35 or are you 34?
Well, I turned 35 in October. So.
Okay, so as of October, you're an old guy.
Right. In some circles, you know. But I'll take it because I used to be young and I thought I knew what I was talking about, but I really didn't. So, I feel for you young 20-somethings that are, few bumps and bruises.
I think technically the millennial window goes from like 82 or 1983 to like, I don't know. But I think you might be a millennial.
I'm pretty sure that it starts in 81.
81.
And I am the beginning.
Are you 80?
I'm 81. So what's the name of your consulting company?
To be determined.
Great. And what's the name of your leadership company?
Well, right now the term for the leadership company is faith and leadership development and fellowship. Those are kind of the three, but that's not the name of it, but that's what it's about. Faith, fellowship, and leadership.
Nice. Okay. Well, great. Well, maybe by the time you get this we get this out, you'll have some names. And then, so if people want to find you on the internet, you said you had a blog or a website?
Yeah, that's thomasdsmith.wordpress.com. The other one I always send people to it's linkedin.com, and then I believe it's /tsmith4515.
Perfect.
But I can send you that too.
Perfect.
And I will get up and running because I'm in day 19 or 20 of this journey. So Absolutely. I've been focused a lot more on the action side, whereas as opposed to the,
That's perfect. Ready, fire, aim. That's my philosophy.
There you go.
We appreciate you coming in and sharing. And again, we're going to touch base and kind of hear the unfolding of your story. And best of luck to you.
Super cool. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on the Amplify Podcast. You can find more at theamplifypodcast.com. Our social links to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Join us in conversation. Let us know what you're thinking and how we can best service you guys. We will see you again really soon.